Chapter, PUP Open University, PUP College of Engineering, PUP College of Science, PUP College of Computer and Information Sciences, PUP College of Arts and Letters, PUP College of Sciences and Development, PUP College of Education, PUP College of Communication, PUP College of Business Administration, PUP College of Political Science and Public Administration, PUP Institute of Technology, Mechatronics and Robotics Society of the Philippines National, Lyceum of the Philippines, University of Laguna, Isabela State University, Far Eastern University Institute of Technology, University of Perpetual Help System Data, University of the East Caloocan, Technological University of the Philippines Taguig, Polytechnic University of the Philippines Parañaque, Institute of Computer Engineers of the Philippines Singapore, St. Michael's College of Laguna, Universitas 17 Augustus 1945. And with that, again, welcome everyone. And we are currently 112 participants in our Zoom meeting. If you know someone who's supposed to be here but still not, I'll kindly ask them to join our meeting right now. With that, welcome to the second day of the first International Conference on Humanities, Education, Sciences, Management, Engineering, and Technology 2021 with the theme Accelerating Research for Resilient and Sustainable Global Community in the Midst of the Pandemic. Good morning, and once again, I am Darrell John Medina, and I will be the Master of Ceremony, and I will be joining you to this prestigious event. But before we proceed to our event, let us first do a recap on what happened yesterday. So what happened yesterday? Number one, most of the respectable individuals such as Dr. Arvin de la Cruz, Dr. Elmer de Jose, Dr. Manuel Muhi, Dr. Emmanuel de Guzman, Engineer Mariciel Teocampo, Dr. Christopher Sasot, and Dr. Architect Eko Norsanti joined us at the opening of the first virtual Ichesmet. Next, all research papers for each track already presented and can be watched later in the breakout rooms. So that is what happened yesterday. So I think all of our participants are excited to the continuation of this event. And let's go to the next part of our event. To introduce with us the keynote speaker for today, a round of applause to Engineer Pedrito Tenerife Jr., the Vice Chair for Research Presentation, Chief of the PUP OU Learning Management System, and the Vice President for Mechatronics of MRSPNCR Chapter. Engineer Pedrito, the floor is yours.
Serpent, ikaw na. Wala serpent.
Hello, Doke. I'll be representing Star Tenerife for this.
Noted, sir.
Okay, good morning, everyone. For our keynote speaker, he has been serving as the Secretary of the Philippine Department of Science and Technology since July 2016. He obtained his Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering and Master of Science in Industrial Engineering degrees from the University of the Philippines. He taught Industrial Engineering and Operation Research at the UP College of Engineering for 43 years, from 1973 to 2016, while also serving on a secondment basis at the DOST, occupying various positions between 1982 to 2011. He served as Vice President for Planning and Development at the University of the Philippines and as Undersecretary of the DOST prior to his retirement in 2014. He was appointed as DOST Secretary in 2016. He was President of the following organizations: the Philippine Institute of Chemical Engineers, the Association of Management and Industrial Engineers of the Philippines, the Philippine Association for the Advancement of Science and Technology, and the National Research Council of the Philippines. He also served as the chairman of the UN Commission on Science and Technology for the Development in each 15th session from 2011 to 2012. He received awards from the Professional Regulation Commission, the Civil Service Commission, the Career Executive Service Board, the UP Alumni Engineers, and the UP College of Engineering, the UP Alumni Association, and the Ateneo de Manila University. In 2018, the University of the Philippines conferred him the degree of Doctor of Laws honoris causa. Ladies and gentlemen, our keynote speaker for this morning, Honorable Fortunato Tanseco de la Peña. Please give him a round of applause.
Warmest greetings to everyone. I would like to thank the Polytechnic University of the Philippines Graduate School, particularly the Office of the Vice President for Academic Affairs, for inviting me to give this message on the occasion of the International Conference on Humanities, Education, Science, Management, Engineering, and Technology, or Ichesmet, which is done virtually. And with the theme Accelerating Research for a Resilient and Sustainable Global Community in the Midst of the Pandemic. You know, as I was looking at the different fields contained in the title of the conference, where you cover a very wide range of areas: humanities, education, sciences, management, engineering, and technology, I just said to myself, there is one phrase, actually a tagline that we are using that can probably sum up all the, shall we say, the concerns of all these topics that you have. And I will sum it up by sharing with you our tagline at the DOST since I came into office, and this is Science for the People. Okay. And so I would like to share with you some information regarding the strategies that we have taken, the programs that we have implemented, and this actually covers the period 2016 up to today, 2021, and as we move towards the end of our 6-year term in this administration, this is probably the best time to share with you these strategies and accomplishments. Next slide, please. Well, in the General Appropriations Act, there is a certain section that mentions the Harmonized National Research and Development Agenda. And actually, at the start of every administration, it is required that there will be a harmonized national research and development agenda, okay? And this will cover the projects that may amount to 10 million pesos and above. And therefore, at the start of our term, this was in late 2016, we came up with, or through consultations with shall we say, a harmonized national research and development agenda, which by law has to be approved, okay, by the NEDA or the cabinet as a whole. And so we actually can divide this national harmonized research and development agenda, next slide please, into those agenda items that can be shall we say, directed, supported, and monitored by our 4 councils of the Department of Science and Technology. 3 of them are organic councils, like the Philippine Council for Agriculture, Aquatic, and Natural Resources, R&D, the DOST, that is PICARD, our DOST Philippine Council for Industry, Energy, and Emerging Technologies R&D, or PSHERD, our Philippine Council for Health Research and Development, or PCHRD. And we have a council which is up to a collegial body, the National Research Council of the Philippines, which has been in existence since 1933. And as I said, it's a collegial body, but they cover basically the more basic researches. So in February of 2017, the Harmonized National Research Agenda, Development Agenda for 2017 to 2022 was approved by the Cabinet. And we are using this up to today. Next slide, please. Maybe just to give you a glimpse of what are the coverage of or what areas or sectors are covered by each group. Here is the listing for the agriculture, aquatic, and natural resources R&D agenda. Okay, so they cover food security, the value chain development for livelihood and income generation in that sector, building resilience to climate change and natural shocks. Okay. Sustainable environment and natural resources. And there are also subsectors, for example, crabs, livestock, aquatic, forestry, natural resources, and environment. And there are cross-cutting concerns, which are more of functional areas, the technology transfer aspects, the policy development aspects, and the human capital development aspects. Next slide, please. From our estimate, the requirement to implement that agenda just for the agriculture, aquatic, and natural resources agenda was an ambitious 402 billion. Okay, but I will not cite anymore the actual figures that we are getting, but definitely it's much lower, much lower than this. Next slide, please. In the industry, energy, and emerging technology agenda, they cover also food and nutrition security because they cover the portion of food processing. Okay, they cover competitive industries, the delivery of social services because you know the systems involved. Okay, is under this emerging technology agenda. The countryside development agenda. Okay, in trying to improve the value chain and the value addition as you move from one stage of the chain to another, and particularly for the enterprises that come from the countryside. We have renewable energy and energy storage solutions. We have intelligent transportation solutions, and we have human security. That of course, human security and defense. Next slide, please. These are actually the sectoral coverage under the industry, energy and emerging technology sector, electronics and semiconductor, mining and minerals, metals and engineering, food processing, processes under industry, and in energy, we have energy efficiency, transportation, and of course, renewable energy is part of that. And under emerging technologies, we include material science, nanotechnology, genomics and biotechnology, information and communications technology, space technology applications, photonics, okay, artificial intelligence. We also have creative industries and data science, and some special concerns that are put under industry, energy, and emerging technologies would be researches that are related to climate change, adaptation, to disaster risk reduction and management, to environment, and to human security. Next slide, please. What we adopted also a strategy which we call convergence. In our different councils at the DOST, the members of the governing councils come from different sectors, actually. There are representatives from other government departments. For example, in agriculture, we have the Department of Trade and Industry represented. We have the Department of Agriculture represented. We have the Department of Agriculture and Natural Resources represented. In the case of the Council for Health, of course, we have the Department of Health represented. We have the Commission on Higher Education represented. Okay, we have different professional organizations also represented. And then in the Philippine Council for Industry, Energy, and Emerging Technologies, R&D, Department of Public Works is represented, Department of Transportation is represented, Department of Energy is represented, Department of Environment and Natural Resources is represented. And before, we did not, we practically funded all our R&D that are approved in the OST. But what we did now was to really engage our partner departments, in the importance of the R&D for them. Okay, so while the Department of Health was the earliest, was the first actually to contribute resources for R&D that we are implementing, and that is actually provided by law under the National Health Research and Development Act. And however, in the other department, there was no such law. And so it really takes some initiative to convince the departments concerned that it will be of benefit to them if they will be involved in certain R&D, and not only in the approval process, but also contributing resources as part of the ownership. And so that is what we did. And we saw the progress in this when DPWH started funding researchers that had something to do with, shall we say, preparing for, let us say, extreme events like natural disasters, earthquakes, and other extreme conditions or natural phenomena. Because we have to protect our infrastructure. And so the initial project that they supported was really on the instrumentation that will monitor the health of infrastructure, of buildings, of bridges, and the like. Okay, and then of course, little by little, we were able to get the collaboration of the Department of Energy, not only in the matter of energy conservation, but also in the applications of renewable energy. And so this is another form of convergence. With DTI, since we do work related to standards, to metrology, DTI also became our partner there, and so forth and so on. And so this is what we call convergence. And recently, we have signed a memorandum of understanding for the convergence program, wherein the collaboration partners, okay, in this platform are DOST, DBM, of course, because they provide the funds, the Department of Transportation, Public Works, CHED, DTI, and the Department of Energy. Next slide, please. Now, one area that has really been given high priority now is in the area of translating the output of research and development into applications and commercialization. Okay, there are certain outputs of R&D that are for public goods. We want them to be used, to be applied, but not necessarily to generate income out of the intellectual property, but more to be used. And this is one category. But there are, of course, R&D outputs that can be translated into economic activities, that can be used to earn income, that can be used to accumulate wealth. Okay, and this can be in the form of spin-off enterprises. And this is what we call translation of research in advancing commercialization. So Fast Track is our short name for that, funding assistance for spin-off and translation of research in advancing commercialization. And the metrics here would be the numbers that are registered as companies, the license agreements that are executed, the client contracts that are signed, the units deployed in terms of the products and the income that is generated. Next slide, please. Speaking of spin-off, we now have a growing number of spin-off projects, some from out of the research that we fund, but others out of the initiatives of the individuals who are quite innovative and would like to come up with something that can be translated into a spin-off. So, for example, here we have Bigormin, okay, which is actually a material that is used to shall we say, clean the water, the wastewater, okay, to remove the odors, to make it clear. We have Charm, is a charging system for electric vehicles, and then all of these actually are intended to be commercialized, and therefore they have been translated into spin-off companies. Next slide, please. Now, in the case of health, our harmonized research and development agenda covers the following priorities. We have the biggest program that we have is the Drug Discovery and Development, or 2+LUNAS program, mainly developing or discovering and developing therapeutics or drugs, or even later on vaccines, okay, that but basically more on the therapeutics that will be sourced from biodiversity or from materials that we see even under the sea. Okay, so these are the so-called herbal drugs. Some of them are drugs that are developed out of materials that we get not only from the plants that we see planted on land, but also those that fauna and flora that we see in the bodies of water. And recently, the 2+LUNAS has included, for example, the discovery and development of drugs that uses materials from sediments under the sea, or even other sources that can be used for the treatment of many kinds of diseases. We have the biomedical devices for health. Okay, mainly our focus now is those that are related to pulmonary and to physical therapy and rehabilitation. We have the omic technologies for health that we have seen how important this is. The work of the Philippine Genome Center, okay, during the pandemic, identifying the variants, etc. And of course, diagnostics is very important. So developing the diagnostic kits is really a high priority. Functional foods, they may not be considered as drugs, okay, but they can help, okay, in building immunity, in giving us the needed, okay, shall we say, nutrients that are important for maintaining wellness, health and wellness. Nutrition and food safety is part of it. And we also have disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation, because disasters, okay, create problems in health, and we have to address these. And we have, of course, the emerging and emerging infectious diseases. We now have this COVID-19, which we did not anticipate and which we were not familiar with. We have to be prepared because in the future there might be other emerging infectious diseases that will be coming. We have to be prepared. ICT for health is an important sector. Mental health is definitely important, and we have seen that as a very important concern during the pandemic. And that one, which you call Archer, was actually a program that was specifically developed to address emergency situations like these emerging diseases. So the Archer is a big program where we get our resources to address the COVID-19 problems. Next slide, please. Okay, I will not elaborate anymore. The Class Lunis program envisions to produce world-class medicine derived from the Philippine biodiversity, leveraging on local expertise. Next slide, please. So it covers cultural management, propagation of priority organisms. Next slide, next item. Also the development of standardized herbal drugs. Next item. Also the preclinical drug development. Next item. And the development and or validation of standard processes and protocols for various stages of drug discovery and development. So these are the different components of the Tuklas Lunas program. There are projects that lead to actual medicines already, but there are others that are, shall we say, that stop at the developing and isolating the active ingredients, and we offer them for further clinical trials and development to the private sector, of course, under licensing agreements. Next slide, please. Biomedical devices engineering for health aims to address the need for research on improvisation and local development of affordable, safe, and reliable hospital equipment and biomedical devices for supportive and therapeutic care. Next slide, please. We have the so-called minimally invasive devices, okay, that are also important. Some of these are the ones that are used in the operating rooms and other types. We have devices for post-operative rehabilitative care. Next, we have devices for health emergency response. Next, we have actually distributed healthcare devices. Next, and we have the simulation platforms and tools for disease studies. Next slide, please. The omic technologies for health utilizes information from different omic technologies in generating information for the development of precision medicine, diagnostics, therapeutics, and health policies in the Philippines. So we have components of this which we call omics for health and wellness, systems biology, novel technologies for therapeutics, and biobanking, data mining, and population studies for human health, ethnicity, and forensic applications. The diagnostic kits, on the other hand, focuses on the development of diagnostic kits for priority infectious diseases and non-communicable diseases, the early detection and or prediction of disease and the mortality, while utilizing existing technologies that are off patent or lapse technologies and or novel technologies. Next slide, please. Now, of course, in the area of functional food, these are those that we support researchers tackling crops and food products that have possible health advantages beyond their distinctive nutritional benefits. Okay, so root crops, seaweeds, edible mushrooms, local berries, turmeric, pili, malunggay, BCO, brown rice, and pigmented rice. I am reminded of an artwork which my granddaughter made, and it was a nice artwork, but the title is "Nutrition is the Best Vaccination." Next slide, please. Nutrition and food safety is another priority in the agenda. It seeks to address the human nutrition problems in the country, such as micronutrient and macronutrient deficiencies. There is also the case of overnutrition, and there are nutrition-related diseases, as well as the current and emerging issues in food safety. So under nutrition, you have maternal nutrition, geriatric nutrition, nutrigenomics, nutrition assessment, product development for supplementation, determinants of malnutrition, and under food safety, we have a lot covered studies on several food safety issues like the presence of heavy metals, aflatoxin, allergens, microbiological contamination, and foodborne diseases. We also look into the exposure assessment of selected nutrients, food contaminants, and food additives in commonly consumed food. Next slide, please. Now we go into the area of disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation in health. As I said, disasters create health problems. Okay, for example, in evacuation centers, you see a lot of health problems and so forth and so on. So it aims to mitigate the health effects of disasters and climate change in the Philippines. Next slide, please. S&T innovations to improve health services during disasters is a priority. Food innovations to mitigate the nutritional and dietary effects of this disaster. So ready-to-eat food, which are nutritious, is important. Researches to ensure health consequences during disasters are reduced. You have some mental health problems also, and climate change adaptation in health. Next slide, please. Now, the emerging and emerging infectious diseases involve studies, okay? They study the dynamic balances and imbalances within complex, globally distributed ecosystems comprising humans, animals, pathogens, and the environment to control disease emergencies in the future. And this is one of the reasons why we are pushing for the creation of the Virology and Vaccine Institute of the Philippines. It will study not only the virus attacking humans, but also the virus attacking animals and plants. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have the virology and vaccine R&D related studies, the surveillance and monitoring of novel and emerging pathogens and infectious diseases. Next slide, please. And we have ICT for health, covers research on data science, e-health solutions, telemedicine, and health promotion, public health surveillance, tools for health information exchange and systems interoperability, ICT-enabled health services. Next slide, please. Mental health. Okay, we have realized that this can really be a big problem when challenging situations occur. Focuses on 3 outcome-based themes: improve mental health information system, strengthen leadership and governance, and accessible, affordable, responsive, and holistic mental health services. That also include social determinants of mental health, inventory and evaluation of mental health intervention, standardization of mental health services, ICT for mental health, and diagnostics and omics for mental health. Next slide, please. Now, I will not dwell too much on this. I already explained that this is really a program that can provide research-based solutions to both persisting and emerging impacts of COVID-19, whether you talk of vaccines, facilities, or the purposing of drugs, diagnostics, etc. Next slide, please. Now, we also have an integrated basic research agenda, or the so-called NIBRA, and the priority research areas that they have included in the national harmonized R&D agenda are sustainable communities, inclusive nation building, health sufficiency, food and nutrition security, clean energy, and water security. So we have studies that generate new knowledge and discoveries, as well as those that provide support to evidence-based policymaking. We have proposals that forge linkages between the government, particularly local government units, academe, industry sector, and civil society. And we have projects that will ensure translation and transfer of social technologies to the people, and various publics will be prioritized for funding. Next slide, please. Now, we introduced during this administration, starting 2017, the Science for Change program. And I have described this, I will describe this very briefly. In the case of NICER, which is the one of the biggest components, we established R&D centers in the regions to contribute to regional development. CRADLE is collaborative R&D to leverage the Philippine economy. We create synergistic academic-industry relationship to invigorate Philippine R&D. We have business innovation through S&T for industry, which facilitates the acquisition of strategic and relevant technologies by Filipino companies to support R&D activities. And we have the RD Leadership Program, which engages R&D experts to lead in strengthening the research capabilities of the higher education institutions and the research and development institutions. Next slide, please. Very quickly, the statistics. We have 41 totally approved, total approved NICERs. We have covered 17 regions. We have invested 2.17 billion pesos. and it is distributed all over the Philippines. Next slide, please. For agriculture, aquatic, and natural resources, this is the lineup of nicer centers. So we cover practically every commodity that is usually abundant in the area or is a major crop in the area. Garlic, potato, freshwater fisheries, citrus, sweet potato, tamarind. We even included the Center for Cave Ecosystem, and we have the Native Pig R&D Center distributed in different universities all across the different regions. Next slide, please. A continuation of the NICERs in agriculture, aquatic, and natural resources. Okay, pili, queen pineapple, mollusk, biodiversity, native chicken, bamboo, sea cucumber, industrial tree plantation, cacao, halal goat, seaweeds. Next slide, please. And for the industry, energy, and emerging technology sectors, we have the Coastal Engineering Research Center, we have the Electromobility R&D Center, the Smart Water Infrastructure Management R&D Center, the Center for Astronomy, the Center for Environmental Technologies and Compliance, the Center for Advanced Batteries, Center for Advanced Materials for Clean Energy Technologies, the Center for Lake Sustainable Development, Center for Environmental and Informatics, the Center for Sustainable Polymers, and the Renewable Energy R&D Center. Next slide, please. We also have the Sustainable Mineral and Mining Operations R&D Center, the Maritime Transport Research Center, and the Mountain Engineering R&D Center. Next slide, please. For health, we have the Biomaterials for Diagnostics and Therapeutics R&D, the Center for Innovations for Disaster Risk Reduction Management in Health, Sports Medicine and Rehabilitation Research Center, Integrated Protein Research and Development Center, Center for Medical Robotics, Center for Vector of Diseases of Public Health, and the Applied Modeling, Data Analytics, and Bioinformatics in Health. These are distributed to different universities and R&D institutes. Next slide, please. The R&D lead has already fielded 49 R&D experts to 46 host institutions in different parts of the country. Next slide, please. Cradle has already implemented 75 projects involving 340 million grants from the DOST, and they cover again the different areas, mostly in agriculture, industry, and energy. Next slide, please. This is one of the more difficult or the most recent also that we have implemented, the business innovation through S&T for industry. We noticed that very few Filipino small and medium companies have research and development facilities inside their company, and we are encouraging them to have that kind of R&D facility, and so we can advance to them the resources needed for as long as they will repay. Okay, so we have here 3 examples. Actually, the first 3, but there are now 4 approved projects. This is Herbanex, which is on herbal medicine; Bioassets, which is really more on diagnostics and genome sequencing; Nanotronics, which is on nanotechnology materials. 4 pala ito, 4. And we have Galenx, the development of a 3-dimensional bioprinted human skin equivalent for in vitro biocompatibility studies of topical formulation. Next slide, please. The Balik Scientist program is something that we are very happy about. So many Filipinos, we realized, wanted to give back. Filipinos living in different parts of the world, and they're just waiting for this opportunity. Of course, we had met challenges because of the difficulty in mobility, but we know that this will soon go back to some kind of normal. In the meantime, the short-term Balik scientists who cannot travel because of mobility problems, we allow to do services virtually. So one good example of a very enthusiastic response was when we announced that we are starting our R&D on virology and vaccine development, and immediately a big number of them responded. At one batch, we have 7 Balik scientists volunteering expertise on virology and vaccine development. Next slide, please. So, what is our call to action? R&D, okay, academic industry, government collaboration, translational research, and all of this will require the submission of proposals. So this is my message for today, a long one, but I hope you have picked up useful information from my message. Thank you very much.
Science for the people, a very short but very wise statement. May we all be reminded that we do research to solve problems and help people. Thank you, Honorable De La Peña, for that enlightening message. Now, to introduce the speaker for our technical session, may we call on Dr. Christopher Sasot, the Quality Assurance Coordinator of the PUP Graduate School. Dr. Sasot, the floor is yours.
Alright, so good morning to all of the participants, to our university officials, faculty, guests. Good morning to all of you. So I'm tasked to introduce our speaker, our second speaker for today. So let me read her biography. So our speaker graduated Master of Science and PhD in Environmental Science in Wageningen University in the Netherlands. Currently, she is the Dean of the Faculty of Technology in Van Lang University, Vietnam. With over 25 years of experience working in the field of environment and climate change, she has carried out many in-depth and applied researches focusing on sustainable development, environmental risk assessment that seeks for solutions for management, reuse, recycling, and waste management. Several international projects can be mentioned here that describe her research goals, such as strengthening capacity and institutional reform for green growth and sustainable development in Vietnam, CIGG upgrading management system for agricultural waste in Dalat City, USAID UNDP in 2018 to 2019, development of climate adaptation, vision, goals, target and actions, and development of climate action planning programs from C40 Cities Climate Leadership Group Incorporated, SWECO 2020-2021. Also circular economy for industries of textile, wooden metals for IKEA, UNDP from 2019 to 2020, and nano-assisted bioremediation of diffused dioxins in soil and sediment. Also from USAID, AIP from 2021 to 2024. Recently, in the recent years, she focuses on climate change adaptation and mitigation, circular economy, industrial symbiotic, and development of a green industrial zone model. She has an ongoing mission to develop solutions for environmental protection, aiming at green growth. So without further ado, it's my honor to introduce Associate Professor Dr. Le T. Kim On.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you very much for Dr. Philip and conference organizer for inviting me in this scientific event. My name Le Thị Kim On. I'm from Van Lang University, the Faculty of Technologies, from Vietnam. Today, I would like to share with you the idea to carry out the research on sustainable urban development in the context of climate crisis and COVID pandemic, an environmental management perspective. The content of the sharing is about the problem-oriented urban development strategy, the current state and issue to note, research focus, and further contact address and also the further cooperation, research cooperation. So we come to the research question: how should the urban environment be managed in the context of rapid urbanization and climate crisis, and also recently pandemic? And what research activities should be implemented to meet an environmental need? Yeah, we already see the problem and the complex situation nowadays, together with environmental problem, together with climate effect and also pandemic. So we have a mixing integrated problem. So what can we do, and which activity should be in priority list of the research to support for the urbanization of the cities? So I come to the urbanization in the world, and also especially in the developing countries. As you know, that's the United Nations in 2018 showed that we have 55% of the world population live in urban areas, and a portion that will expected to increase up to 68% by 2050. Yeah, it's increases. I mean, very much increasing. So, and they also show that in 2030, the world is projected to have 43 megacities with more than 10 billion inhabitants, and most of the megacity is located in the developing countries. Yeah, as you know, that Ho Chi Minh City is one of the megacities where I live now. So I can recognize very well the environmental problem now is I mean, remarkable to compare to 20 years ago, with a lot of problem of flooding and also drought and also air pollution and like canal pollution, things like that. We see is clearly the difference. So the process of urbanization lead to impact on the environment, climate change, and also its increase social costs and decrease the qualities of life. So therefore, when we try to manage the environment in the urban areas, we focus in three aspects, three factors. Well, first one is technologies to apply in the cities. The second one is human capacity, human resource in the cities. And the last one is the governance, in order to ensure that the living environment is good for people. It means it's safe, it's fresh, and it's comfortable for people living in the urban area. Yeah, it's an alarm about environmental problem and climate crisis. When we discuss about the greenhouse gas emission, and we talk every day about the air pollution, for example, with the dust, for example, like dust, PM 2.5 is increasing recently years, and its effect is harmful to human health. Yeah. The problem of environmental pollution in the urban area is become more and more complicated and serious. In addition, the impact of climate change and now pandemic, including the problem, so it's become more complicated and more difficult to solve, and also it needs to be focused. Here we highlight 4 points. The first one is air, the second is water, third is waste, and the last one is the disaster in the city, in the urban areas. With the air qualities increasing polluted in terms of frequencies, intensities, and appearance of specific component, things like benzene or water. So water in the city is now a big problem. We talk about water resource, we talk about water supplies, and we also talk about wastewater, domestic wastewater, and also even industrial wastewater in the cities. It's effective to the ecosystem and also human health. So solid waste in urban area is also a big issue when we think like in the developing countries, most of the city is commingled waste. So we also have problem with plastic waste, and things like single-use plastic also is awareness nowadays in the recent years. And we also talk about microplastic and hazardous waste, including in the domestic waste. Things like that, it affect to the environment of the cities. The last one is disaster. We recently year, like Ho Chi Minh City, we have a lot of problem of flooding, urban flooding during the rainy season, especially in the heavy rains. So the drainage system cannot adapt it to get a high amount of water. We in the city like Ho Chi Minh City, we also have a problem of drought or heat, and sometimes we also got some storm, not much in Ho Chi Minh City, but in other city you see it's a lot of problem of storm. And nowadays all over the world we have problem with the disease like pandemic COVID-19. So recently we discussed about COP26, how to reduce CO2 emission, and they PwC just showed us the decarbonization in the Asia Pacific region was only 0.9% in 2020. So we for the whole world, for the global average, it's about 2.5%. If we want to achieve the Paris Agreement goal of limiting warming to 1.5 degrees C, it should be about 12.9% decarbonization rate. Yeah, that's why the action that's much stuck now to fulfill the requirement. Therefore, with the situation like that, the promoting recovery activities should be mentioned here with 5 emphasize. First one, I want to talk about the ensure the equitable access to the COVID-19 vaccine. That is under urgent needs nowadays. To improve the efficiency of environmental management, to control water pollution or air pollution, and also how to recover the waste, how to manage in such a good and also recover the waste. We should consider on invest in sustainable energies, like developing country where we have a lot of sunshine, how to collect this kind of energies, increasing the climate change adaptation and mitigation. Recently year in Ho Chi Minh City, we do many many activity relation to how to have people adapted with the effect of climate change, like flooding, like heavy rain, like heat affecting drought, things like that, and promoting technology transfer. So that's why like Ho Chi Minh City, we try to transform digital into the environmental management system, step by step, to improve the wastewater system, wastewater treatment, water supply, and also the solid waste system. Yeah, facing with the environmental problem and climate change and pandemic, the developing countries in general, we are now in the urgent need to find solution to recover and develop sustainability strategy for sustainable development. So now to get into action, so the government try to set up a strategy, and based on that we set up target and then the action for the to get the sustainable development goal. So Vietnam had already participated in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. And now Vietnam continue to affirm its international commitment to implementation of the 2030 Sustainable Goal, Development Goal, and the Paris Agreement on climate change. Based on that, we already set up strategy for green growth. Target to the periods of 2021-2030. Yeah, with the targets is reduce CO2 emission with 50% in 2030 and 30% in 2050, comparing to 2014. And we also set up project like smart cities in Vietnam to try to transform the digital technology to apply for the city. And in the perspective of environment, we also apply digital to improve the efficiency of the management system. So now I introduce a bit about the urban digitization from the perspective of environmental management. Yeah, digital transformation is defined as an inevitable trend to be able to successfully implement the smart city project. Yeah. And with the technology 4.0 platforms such as like AI, blockchain, authentication, identifier, with open or share API, allowing stakeholders to effectively access and explore modern technology at a reasonable cost. Exploring technology application has promoted and also supported at the moment in Vietnam. So this opened the chance for the researcher to carry out the research, to set up the system, monitoring system, or control system, or action system to control the problem of environment, and also in other activities to manage the to improve the efficiency of the system, of the urban system. So here we talk about the perspective of environment. So we care about the air, about the water, about waste, and also about risk. So in general, the world they already have a lot of system, and recently years in Ho Chi Minh City and also in Vietnam we apply. Step by step the control system, digital system to improve the environmental qualities of the cities. For example, for the air quality monitoring control, we have indoor and we also have outdoor air quality monitoring sensor monitoring system to analyze the quality of air, and also to alarm to estimate for the futures the qualities of air. Then the government have they have the planning, they have the action to control the problem. So we have software stimulate air quality data, allow to identify key issues, influencing factors, and forecast impact of air pollution. We also have air purifier with self-cleaning features, air pollution control feature. We nowadays they also have different kind of the system to monitoring or to clean the air even in the car, in the house, in the car, and also outside. And they also have the air purifier on the streets or in the bus station, things like that. We have urban water supply and drainage, and also flood management. So we also apply things like real-time monitoring software, have the limit and minimize water loss and adverse impact of water resource under the impact of environmental issues and also climate change. The thing like the sensor of water level, flow rate sensor, allow manager the minimize damage. So the manager can immediately adapt to the certain damage on the system. This sensor system is direct connect to the central control system. Yeah, and then they can manage in terms of the whole city. For the solid waste, the system we try to control in the way of circular economies, where we try to limit the way we recover, reuse the waste, and also control insert efficiency via the transformation technology like minimize transportation route, monitoring the landfill system when they are operating, and also they have the control monitoring system to set up at the solid waste factories. Yeah, and from the government they can analyze the qualities of air and also noise in the factories. For the risk mitigation and adaptation to climate change, so you see that recently here we have a lot of problem of storm, of flooding, with many people die. So that's why I think the risk assessment system to monitoring the problem and to alarm the problem is very, very important. And this is is the first priority to do the research, to apply it in the city. So I come to a conclusion and recommendation for our activities that that now with the environmental problem and climate change and pandemic. So we had to put into action immediately to do something to control the situation. The world is now right now focusing on the pandemic problem. For example, doing how to produce vaccine, carry out the research on public health is absolutely necessary at the moment right now. And for the environmental pollution, climate change, so direct or indirect is affect to the health or social or environment or economies. So the research on sustainable development, adaptation, and environmental impact reduction has been and always be the hot topic. Yeah. For environmental study in Vietnam in recently years, the assessment of impact of climate change on people, social and technical infrastructure, and find out the solution for adaptation and mitigation is now is necessary, is required. The government already set up the list of priority action to improve the climate change adaptation and mitigation. So based on that action, the researchers can do the research to support for each action, based on the requirement of the government. And we develop solution for sustainable urban development, focusing on digital adaptation. So you see in Vietnam, we already have a project for smart city. So to support for project smart city, so we really underneath to do research, to carry out research, to set up a software or system or transfer the software or system from other countries to apply in the certain case of Vietnam. We are now in the current improvement of solid waste management and on the ways of circular economies. So we try to recover, especially with plastic and microplastic. It's the moment research activities. We also focusing on the efficiency use of energies and also resource use, and also things like agriculture resource, how to agriculture way, how to recover it as a resource. So I think I stop my presentation here for today, and I thank you very much for your joining me, and I am very welcome you for further discussion and also for research cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Oon, for that message. Now we'll be having a short question and answer forum where you may ask the professionals present in this meeting for the questions that grinds your gears. You may use the chat feature of the Zoom app, or you may raise your hands, then open your microphones. Again, I encourage everyone to participate in the question and answer forum. If you have any questions that grinds your gears, our professionals in the Zoom meeting may answer your questions. Thank you. Okay, I guess I'll be the one starting the question and answer forum. For our professionals, what can you advise for students like us in preparing for a research? Anyone can answer.
Hello, Dr. On.
Yes.
I think Daryl, the question of Daryl is all about what are your advice to student in doing research?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for your question. Yeah. For a student, yeah, we actually we in Van Lang Universities we guide for students to do research right day arrive to Van Lang for the first year. So I think for students they have many opportunity to do research since the beginning of the study in the environment. So yeah, of course, the step by step you can follow the research by together with your supervisor, and also you can do it by yourself in terms of I mean just a small activities like how to analyze waste in the cities, how to recover the waste in the city, for example, like that. And we also can show students to join the project in terms of digital transformation to set up, I mean, simple system to monitor the air quality, to monitor the water quality from the river or from the drainage system. So that kind of activities will improve the knowledge of students, and also I mean push them in terms of the topic, and they will I mean happy to join and to study later on. So for my side, I do most on climate change activities, or lighting like solid waste treatment, or also the public awareness for students, for people, so students can join us or the lecturers to do the research to analyze the, I mean like climate change, to adapt people adapt to climate change, or things like climate change to affect to people in terms of social, in terms of the economies, and also in terms of public health. So that's kind of activities the student can step by step to improve their research activity, research knowledge, and then later on they can do their own research in such a bigger topic. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. On. I think Sir Sir Christopher, Dr. Sasut has a question. Dr. Sasut, Christopher Sasut. Sir Dags. So any other question from the audience who would like to ask Dr. On about anything about the subject matter about environmental and the climate change? They're very shy to ask questions, Dr. On.
Yeah, yeah. We will discuss it later via email. Yeah, I put my email address at the end of the presentation slides. So
Yes.
we can discuss this later, and we are welcome you to join our activities and our research. Yeah, we can do it online if you are abroad. Yeah, welcome.
Yes, we welcome that because as of now, Philippines is also focusing on the research on climate change and environmental issues. So it's very much inclined nowadays, especially if there are relationship or correlations with this pandemic viruses of COVID-19. It might have a certain correlation or relationship with that. So we would like to really have a collaboration projects with Banlang University, Dr. On.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, in Van Lang University, we have the Department of Life Science, and where we do a lot of activity relation to things like vaccine for COVID-19 or things like that, and also contribute for the public health. And we also have the department relation to environment or climate change to carry out the research. Yeah, since more than 20 years already. So we are welcome you, not only a student but also lecturer and researcher, to have a cooperation in terms of that kind of activity. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. On. We will be informing our science department and the engineering and technology for the possible collaboration in the future. I think we are now starting, since we have a memorandum of understanding with the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, we are now starting to really collect project that we could collaborate, and vice versa. We would be asking you and Jennifer about the possible partnership of research in the future. Thank you, Dr. On.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
So if there are no other questions, Sir Dags, are you in? I think there's a technical problem with Sir Dags' connections. So, okay. If there is no problem, I think I'll go back to Daryl. Daryl, thank you. Thank you, Dr. On, again.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. On. So, thank you, Honorable Fortunato de la Peña and Associate Professor Dr. Lei Kim On. Now for the certificate of recognition for our speakers. Let's present it on the screen. Again, let's present the certificate of recognition on the screen. So there we go. This certificate of recognition is awarded to Honorable Fortunato T. de la Peña in grateful acknowledgement for his distinguished and valuable service rendered as a resource speaker at the first International Conference on Humanities, Education, Sciences, Management, Engineering, and Technology 2021, with the theme Accelerating Research for Resilient and Sustainable Global Community in the Midst of the Pandemic, held on November 25 and 27, 2021 via Zoom, signed by Professor Dr. Elmer De Jose, the Dean of Graduate School of the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, Associate Professor Dr. Lei Kim On, Dean and Faculty of the Technology University Board Member, Banlang University, and lastly, Associate Professor Dr. Arvin R. De La Cruz, the overall conference chair and the president of MRSPNCR chapter. Again, thank you, Honorable Fortunato E. de la Peña. Next, we have the Certificate of Recognition is awarded to Associate Professor Dr. Lei Kim On in grateful acknowledgement for his distinguished and valuable service rendered as a resource speaker at the first virtual international conference on humanities, education, sciences, management, engineering, and technology 2021 with the theme Accelerating Research for Resilient and Sustainable Global Community in the Midst of the Pandemic, held on November 25 to 27, 2021 via Zoom, signed by Professor Dr. Elmer De Jose, the Dean of Graduate School, Polytechnic University of the Philippines, Associate Professor Dr. Lei Kim On, the Dean, Faculty Technology University Board Member of Banlang University, and lastly, Associate Professor Dr. Arvin R. De La Cruz, the overall conference chair and the president of MRSPNCR chapter. Thank you, Dr. Lei Kim On and Honorable Fortunato de la Peña. And that is it for our morning session today. For those who want to watch the presentations from yesterday's presentations, you may enter the breakout rooms, which are already available at our Zoom meeting. And also, our photo booth is still open for those who want to have their memories and remembrance from this event.
Again, Daryl, we would like to invite everyone to go to the photo booth room for their remembrance and all the pictures would be posted at our website. Yesterday's pictures is already uploaded in our website, www.ichesmet.com. They could visit the gallery and they could see all the pictures there. So if you could visit your photo booth and have your remembrance picture for Ichesmet 2021, so please try to go to the specific room. If you want to watch the presentations of all the papers of the different tracks, we have available rooms specifically for Ichesmet 2021 for humanities educations. But before that, we would like to request everybody to open their camera for the photo sessions of the morning sessions. We would like to request everybody. Can you stop the sharing so that we could take a picture? Technical team, please try to take the picture. Okay. Thank you. We have 151 participants and we have 7 slides. So I hope you could post your smile for a few minutes or a few seconds. Okay, technical team, please be ready for your screenshots. Okay, let's start. So we have one. asking you to be as early as possible so that we could start the program on time. Thank you, and enjoy watching the session. Good day. And happy Thanksgiving to all. Today is the Thanksgiving being celebrated worldwide.